as I said yesterday, or I couldn't have said it yesterday, I have to say it today. Yeah, I know you're standing there. Who could forget? I think the best way to go is simply for you to ask me questions, and I'll endeavor to answer what I can, and we'll take it from there. Otherwise, I try to anticipate what you're thinking, and invariably I get it wrong. Okay? So, yes?
I heard I've got one question. The film The Wrath of Khan. You as Chekhov on Alpha City 6, you discovers you are on button B. The text of Khan, on the end, when he started the Genesis project, he says, "From hell's heart I stabbed thee, for hate's sake I spit my last breath at thee." When you discover that you are on button B, the book of Moby Dick lies beside you. I did control it. It is the same text that Captain Ahab used in Moby Dick. Did you know that at that time was a planned, or is it an honor to Moby Dick writer?
It was an honor to the Moby Dick writer. Nick Meyer was our director, and he's a very, very good writer. He's a very literate man, and yeah, he did that quite purposely. He's very literate. He's written several novels, 7.5% Solution, and a couple of others. In fact, I think he is as good a director as Nicholas Meyer is. He's a better writer, and he's very well versed in the classics. So that was definitely on purpose.
We got a question over here.
Hi. Have you seen the latest movie, and what do you think of the changes that has been made to Star Trek continuity in it?
What was the last part?
What do you think of the changes that have you seen it?
Yeah, of course I have.
Yeah. I hope I don't spoil anything, but they blew up a planet that, is supposed to be around. What do you think of the changes that has been made to the Star Trek continuity?
I didn't quite follow it. There was, the time change thing, and even after I'd seen it and somebody explained it to me, I still had a little trouble with the black hole and the thing. But that notwithstanding, I thoroughly enjoyed the film. I thought it was a really good film, extremely well executed. I thought all the actors were great. I thought Anton Yeltsin was terrific. I think Chris Pine, I think he's going to be a big movie star. I think he has the charm and the personality, the looks, and the talent. He just received an award for some theater that he done, some stage work. So this is a fellow who's well versed and well schooled in the art or the craft of acting. I did find, and I was giving a radio interview, and it occurred to me during the radio interview, I could make a comparison about shooting film in our day and shooting Star Trek, and the way film is shot today. And in fact, the new Star Trek film represents that very eloquently. The best, to me, the most touching moment, the most affecting moment in the Star Trek movies that we did was the death of Spock. That I thought was really the most lyric, most extraordinary, most transporting, please forgive me, single instance that we had in the 7 movies. And that comes at the climax of our story. Our story ends with a very theatrical moment, a very strongly theatrical moment. Now, I thought it was interesting, and I think it, as I say, I think it's indicative of the way films are made today, that the single most affecting moment in the new Star Trek movie, one that is most heart-wrenching, is the birth of James Kirk and the death of his father. came at the beginning of the movie. That was like saying, the writer saying, you know, let's really get this movie off with a tremendous emotional impact and get the audience caught up in our film. And our climax will be CGI. Our climax will be all full of the fireworks, the visual theatrics that filmmaking is now so comfortable using. And in fact, it's the MO, it's the modus operandi. You end up with, you know, a great visual dynamic scene. And I think that very much speaks to how movie making has changed. We didn't have the kind of CGI. Maybe we would have done it in those days. But we dealt more, I think, with relationships and the depth of these relationships as the backbone of the story and as the most monumental moments in the story. Whereas today, as in the new Star Trek film, the climax of the story was all full of, you know, the computer-generated images and the excitement and the spectacular sense of it, the visually spectacular. So I found that to be an interesting difference, and I think it's a difference you can generalize. If you look at motion pictures the way they were made even 30, 40 years ago, as to the way they are made now, that becomes quite evident. But in any case, to answer the question in as convoluted and as circumlocucious a manner as possible, I really did enjoy it. I enjoyed everything about it. I was telling some folks outside that I had met Anton before. I met him on the set. We had a very nice conversation. I mean, he's really very young. He was 19 when he was playing the part. Didn't become 20 until after the movie was over. I was already 31 when I started on Star Trek. So I went up to him after the screening, after the premiere. There was a big party, and I said, Anton, I want to congratulate you on how well you did. And he said, I got my own action figure. He says, I've had yours, but now I've got mine. So I thought that was great. It was very ingenuous and very charming.
Hello.
Hello.
I wanted to know, you only occurred on this TOS series in the third season. You already played 1 or 2 times in the second season, if I recall right. And there wasn't a regular for the tactical position that you filled. Were they looking for an actor for a permanent tactical position, or was your playing that good that they wanted you to continue there?
I was doing street theater. I was out in the street, you know, carrying on and saying, look up into the stars, and oh my God, and no, I wasn't doing any of that stuff. No, the decision had been made that they wanted to draw another demographic, another part of the audience to watch Star Trek. They had the college students, and they had the post-college students, and they had the people in their 30s and 40s, but they didn't feel that they had the bubblegum set, as we call them, the pre-adolescents, the kids from 8 to 14. And The Monkees was a series that was on television and was very successful. And they had a small English chap who received a lot of fan mail from kids. And they decided that they would use Davy Jones as a prototype to cast the part of Chekhov. In fact, when I auditioned for the role, the character was still named Jones, curiously enough, even though it was going to be a Russian. So that was it was a very calculated idea to bring in another part of the audience. You know, NBC at that time promoted the idea that Pravda and Russia was upset that there had not been a Russian on the spaceship when they had the cosmonauts first into space. That's not true. The Russians didn't even know about Star Trek. It was the Iron Curtain was still going on, and they weren't getting Star Trek on the show. It was somebody in NBC publicity who thought that they would draw upon that. The fact of the matter is, as I said, it was finding a character that very young people could relate to. I recently met Davy Jones, and all these years I had never met him. Very nice chap, very pleasant. He knew about me. The curious thing is that I know it's hard to believe, so many years have passed, and he's in his mid-60s now, I think, and I'm 73, and people still mistake me for Davy Jones, which I think is absolutely bizarre. I was in a restaurant, it was 20 years ago, I was at a restaurant with some actor friends of mine, and I was still, there was still some considerable notoriety or celebrity involved with being Chekhov. And some young girl came up to the table, and my actor friends didn't want to hear about it. They weren't working, and they didn't want to hear about success. I can do that. But this girl came up and said, "Oh, are you who I think you are?" And I said, "Yes, I suppose I am." and of course they were very busy eating. They were ignoring the conversation entirely, or trying to. And she says, "Oh, I have a bet with my girlfriend, and she doesn't believe it. So could you come over to the table and prove it?" And I said, "Well, okay." And I started to get out of the chair, and she said, "Oh, and can you please sing Hey Hey We're the Monkeys?" That took the wind out of my sails. But Davy was very pleasant, very, very nice to talk to. That's as far as that goes, I guess. Another question?
Hi.
Hi.
I recently saw a film on the internet. It was a Star Trek movie with you in it, but it wasn't produced by Paramount. I forgot the title. It was like Between Gods and...
Of Gods and Men.
Yeah. Can you tell me something about it? Because I'm very curious.
Sure. Actually, to tell that properly, I got to go back just a little bit before that. I was approached to do a fan film for the internet called To Serve All My Days. And I would say, I told them that I would only do it on the condition that we learn more about Chekhov than we'd ever learned before. That he was something more than an expositional character. An expositional character is one who's there simply to promote the story, to advance the plot. You don't necessarily learn anything about him. It's like Chekhov sitting there and saying, "Captain, there's something strange out in space. What are we going to do?" And then all the torment and all the conflict, and we learn it all from him. And Chekhov was kind of twiddling his fingers because his part is over. He identified the plot point. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. What? Oh, Gods and Men. So I was asked if I would do this, and I said, yeah, I would play this part in To Serve All My Days. If Chekhov could really have some dimension to his character. And we came up with the idea of doing sort of a sequel to an episode called The Deadly Years. And The Deadly Years, everybody grew old within the course of 48 hours, except for Chekhov. And so now, all these years later, it's kicking in, and Chekhov is growing old in the period of 48 hours. Well, that gave me the opportunity to explore the character in many ways. It's the whole thing about being told that you're dying, and first you try to bargain, and then you deny, or maybe you deny first, and then you bargain, and then you go through various emotional phases until finally you reach some kind of peace with the idea. So that's what this episode was about. The character literally aged about 40 years in the course of that episode. And in order to age 40 years, they had to also make me younger, which was kind of fun. So they had these tapes pulling at my skin. So I was very pleased with that, and I thought, okay, I've come full circle. I got an opportunity. I didn't care if 20 people saw it. The point is that I needed to have that experience, that opportunity to bring some fulfillment to the character. So I was done. I was done with playing Chekhov, and then this chap that I know, in fact, he was a partner of mine in the movie Inalienable, which we shot the following year. But he gave me the script, and I looked at it, and I said okay out of friendship, because I really didn't want to do Chekhov again. But then I started to examine it more closely, and I began to see that this is not Chekhov. It's a parallel universe. And if you haven't seen the story, it's kind of a parallel universe kind of situation. If Kirk had died early, now doesn't that sound familiar? I mean, this new film had the same concept, but how the universe would have changed and how the Federation would have changed, and Chekhov is much different character. He's a revolutionary, a very passionate man, and I changed the accent. It was something between what I had and the way I speak, and the character looked very different. And I had a chance to really, dig in emotionally. So I think it was reasonably successful, what I did, and so I enjoyed doing it. Had it not been character not been called Chekhov, I would have enjoyed it for the same reasons that I've said. And they were good actors. They were all professional. The first one, To Serve All My Days, were not all professional actors, but the folks in this picture were, and it shows. And Tim Russ, who I'm sure some of you know. Tuvok, yes. He directed it. He did a very good job. So, that's why I did that. It was mainly because it was just a good role. It was a good part to play.